All right, so I imagine more folks will trickle in, but how about we get started? Thank you all for being here today. I know a lot of you, but in case I don't know you, my name is Lindsay Gleason Reed. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Community Foundation of the New River Valley. And this is our monthly third Thursday session. These are typically held virtually, but we also try to have them about quarterly in person. And anyone from the community is welcome to join us. They are targeted at nonprofit folks working in the nonprofit space, but anyone's welcome if the topic is of interest. We typically record these when they're on when they're virtual, and then we put them on our website. So we'll be doing that after this session, and I'll also send out a follow-up email with the recording in case you're not, checking our website regularly. So I have a couple of announcements, and then I'll just pass it over to Bruce. So always a lot going on at the Community Foundation, but a few dates to be aware of are that our annual Give Local Giving Day is coming up this June. And if you would like to participate as an organization, the deadline to sign up for that is May 1st. So just make sure that you're signed up if you'd like to participate. And I can put a link to the list of participants so far in the chat after I'm done chatting. And we're finalizing some in-person strategy sessions to talk with your peers about and Community Foundation folks about different fundraising strategies for the Giving Day. So those dates are coming soon. We're going to have 4 of those, and they're going to be in different places around the region to try to make the drive a little bit less for folks. But anyone is welcome to come no matter where you live. So those are coming out soon, almost finalized on the dates on those. And then next month for our third Thursday session, we'll be focused on social media, and that will be presented by our intern, Mary. So we're excited for that, to hear from someone who she does a great job on social media for us, and she has some great tips to share. So that will be same time, same place on May 15th. Then on May 30th, our responsive grant application will open, and organizations that are 501c3s or units of local governments like schools or libraries can apply for up to $4,000 in operating support. So lots going on here. And then our third Thursday in June will actually be on the second Thursday of June to go around the Juneteenth holiday. So mark your calendars for June 12th. We'll be in Pulaski in person, and it's going to be a grant application review and kind of talking about budgets and narrative in person with one another. So lots more to come there. And I'll send all this information out in an email. But yeah, so would love to have you at any or all of that. So I will turn it over to Bruce. Bruce Bryan is the founder of 5 Points Creative and a longtime friend of the foundation. He's a great speaker and has a lot of great things to say about communications in general. His work is focused on marketing and publicity with his firm. And we're just really excited to have him here. And I'll pass it over to you, Bruce. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Lindsay, and it's great to be here with you all. It's really extra special because there's a mix of people that I know and people that I don't know. So I look forward to sharing some things with you and hopefully helping you, if I can use this word, help you get your legs under you. So first, can I get a couple of head nods? Can you see my screen? Okay, good. And can you see my cursor? Okay, good. So far we're on a roll. When I was speaking with Jessica last month or the month before about what topics might be most helpful, this was one of the ones that bubbled up. And I wanted to take a moment just to say that these are obviously uncertain times, and that's okay. Many of us have found ways to help even more people during uncertain times. So I just want to encourage you before we really get started to do this, to actually just take one deep breath, okay? All together, you can do it. All your phones or your Zooms are muted, so it is okay. Just take that one deep breath and just acknowledge the fact, I don't know if this is what happens for you, but there are so many times that it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the evening, and I realize that I haven't breathed all day. And my guess is with the extra work that you're doing to keep your nonprofits rolling and growing and thriving, that you might be as busy or busier than I am. And so breathing is really an important thing to do. And it's a good reminder that, catching your breath, there's a reason on the airplanes they talk about, putting the oxygen mask, and hopefully nobody here has had to deal with that, but putting the oxygen mask on yourself, because then you can help other people. I think that's really important. So today, I hope to take the next 45 minutes or so and go through some concepts and some tips and a little bit of help. And one of the great things was Lindsay reached out and asked for some questions, and I got some great questions. And I think I'm in the process of sharing this information, going to address all the questions that you asked. But if you want more information, or if a question bubbles up, I'd love for you to share it or to ask it. Maybe the easiest thing to do would be to put it in the chat for Lindsay, and I won't look at the chat until afterward. But and then Lindsay, you can interrupt if you want, and I'll jump in and answer those. So first, I want to start by getting us all unified with some baseline agreed or agreement information that will help you all make sure you are connected with what needs to happen first. And I think these next 2 or 3 slides may be too fundamental in some ways, but I also believe in the power of foundational communication and making sure that you have your basics covered before you move to the next level. So figuring out what you do best is one of the critical things that you can do. The needs these days are great, and they're varied. And just to give you a little bit of context, some of you know me, many of you do not. My firm, 5 Points Creative, is based in Roanoke, Virginia. We do work all over the country. Our two most recent projects were in Idaho and Wyoming, but we do primarily work in Virginia and in Southwest Virginia. Also, just to give you a little bit of understanding that I know the struggles you face as leaders of nonprofits. I'm on the board of 3 nonprofits, and I started 2. One of the ones that I started was the Help Save the Next Girl Foundation with Dan and Jill Harrington, and the other was the Spot on Kirk, which is a music venue in downtown Roanoke. And I'm the president of that board, hopefully for not much longer. So I know what it's like to raise money. I know what it's like to deal with personnel. I know what it's like to work with the public and work with the media. And what you do on a daily basis is hard work. Okay. But it isn't impossible. And one of the things that you can do is, when I started the Spot on Kirk with our team, there were no other real live music venues. There was the Jefferson Center. And since then, I don't know as much, but obviously the Lyric's doing live music, and the Moss Performing Arts Center is doing live music. And there was Floyd Fest, but the Floyd Country Store has taken off. And there's microbreweries and breweries that have live music multiple days a week. And there's the 5 Points Music Sanctuary, which is out the window. And yet we have grown and prospered at the Spot on Kirk. And part of it is because we've found our voice and we're able to communicate clearly what makes us unique. Everybody on this call is doing great work. And in some ways, you are competing with each other. But what I want to encourage you to think about, and where I believe the heart of the Community Foundation rests, is you are stronger together, and better to share resources, and better to collaborate, and better to work together to try to lift your work and your fundraising capabilities and some of the other things that make you special. And so you can appreciate and respect what is happening with other nonprofits and still not have that impact your own unique service area, gifting, position, or ways you help. All right. The second thing is, I like to say, nonprofit know thy audience. And that means, if you think about good branding is, and I've shared this before, I think on other talks, good branding is really about going to the person and reaching them where they are. You think about the most iconic brands, let's say McDonald's. It's I'm loving it. That's not McDonald's is loving it. It's the recipient is, or you deserve a break today, which was their campaign 30, 40 years ago. Nike, just do it, really focuses on the person doing it, not Nike. There's nothing in there about Nike. And what we like to do as nonprofits is talk about how amazing we are. I want you to spin that around and focus on the people that are receiving the message that you're sharing, not even necessarily the people you're helping. That's also a great thing to know about as well. But I'm talking about specifically the community and helping them know what's going on with you, again, why you're unique, and the messages that will resonate with those people. And then again, that's the second part of it, craft messaging that is specifically for the audiences. And we can talk a little bit more about that. And some of you may say, okay, I understand the words you're saying, but I don't know how to do it and I don't know what you're talking about. And so I hope today to go through some of that together. And again, if there still are questions that you have, I'm happy to try to answer those in the time together or in a one-off if that helps you and if it's necessary. Okay. So know your audience, then craft messaging to match up with it. I like to spend some time talking about this icon, which used to be known as a bullseye, but in the last however many decades has become known as a target. And it's related to the store and the retail outlet. And one of the things that I like to say is if your nonprofit, the people that work there, and again, the people that are associated with you, maybe even their families, if you're speaking with unified voice and maybe you only have 3 or 4 employees, that's 20 people that can all speak the same language. If you have 50 volunteers, now we're talking about a couple of hundred people that can effectively communicate your message. People want to brand from the outside in, and I'm encouraging you starting today, if you don't already do it, to brand from the inside out. Make sure that everybody on your team is united in that messaging. And I'll be transparent. Even as I'm sharing this with you, I'm thinking about not my nonprofit, but I'm also thinking about my own company. I mean, we're a branding company. We help other people to brand. But we sometimes lose sight as a company of what makes us special and unique at 5 Points, and about how we can be tethered and how to most effectively share our story about what makes us unique. And so it's a constant, it's not a one time, hey, we had that strategic plan 3 years ago and now we're done. It is an ongoing challenge to make sure that your stakeholders, your owners, I'm sorry, that your owners, your nonprofits, your employees, your volunteers, even the families of those people all speak with the same language. Then the next tier out might be some of the people that use your services. They're very thankful you're there, but they can't always say what you do. Um, they may not know why you're doing what you're doing or how to communicate it in a succinct way. So prepping and encouraging them, also doing that with your sponsors, or if you use underwriters, making sure they understand why Cardinal News is unique, or why the community garden organization is important, and helping equip them with messaging they can share. Again, that is not a one-off. Hey, we did that last month, or we did that last year, we did that last quarter. It is an ongoing thing that you have to do. And then the next circle out in the Target logo, and next time you go to Target, you can look. Also, I found out they go the other way too. You can start with white in the middle and then go red. But I'm talking about supporting agencies. I'm talking about people that agree with you, people that support what you're doing, municipalities that need you to succeed. You may not think about it, but if you're a music venue, then the economic development organization in your municipality really wants you to do well, because you're bringing people in. People are coming in, they're having an experience, they're maybe going to eat someplace else. They might come and stay, they might bring friends. So they want you to succeed. So how can you give them messaging that they could speak your brand to other people? Those are all really effective audiences for you to share the language that's important and critical to your growth. Could be people that you've helped before. It could be on this call, there's 20, 30 people. If you look at some of the other organizations that are here, I'd encourage you after the call to reach out to one of the ones you don't know and get to know what they're about and see if there is an alliance you can create. Perhaps you do something in Floyd and somebody else does the same thing in Giles. What a great opportunity to learn from each other and to support each other and to, as we started the talk, catch your breath and talk to somebody because they're going through some of the same things you're going through. Even if you're in disparate parts of the nonprofit world, you're still going to go through some of the same experiences. So then lastly, it's the general public. What we want to do as nonprofits and as business owners, it's really the same, is start with the general public. And I want to encourage you to finish with the general public and start with the people closest to you. Because if you're one person trying to share all this, you have a lot of work to do. But if you can get 10 people to share it, if you can get 100 people to share it, 1,000 people to share it, and if everyone's speaking with the same voice, then it's a powerful shift. I don't want to make it about myself, but I'll just tell you, we started talking about the Spot on Kirk 9 years ago, and people didn't really know what it was about. And now when I look at our Google reviews or I listen to people talk about it or people that don't know that I'm associated with the music venue, they're using the language that we were using as a board almost a decade ago. It just takes time sometimes, and it can get really discouraging. It can get really disheartening. But my encouragement to you is to stay the course, because in staying the course and being consistent and starting in the middle and working your way out, it's a much more effective, permanent, and easier to manage process than trying to do it all on your own. Okay. So from there, well, I guess the little cursor didn't want to change. This is what I want to encourage you to do. Each of you are in a different place. There's, a couple dozen people on this call, and some of you have a budget, a plan, and you're working your plan. Great time to go back and make sure it's the right plan because things have shifted and changed. Some of you are sitting on the Zoom saying, yeah, I haven't done any of this. I don't know what to do. Where do I start? How do I do this? And there probably is a mix of people in the middle. And what I would say is build a plan. And I think people think, especially in the nonprofit world, they have to get geared up. They have to roll up their sleeves. They have to, crack their knuckles, and we're going to go do this strategic plan. I believe in doing as you plan. So if you have a plan, great. Tweak it, adjust it, improve it. If you don't have a plan, start. And as you start to formulate a plan. Get help. I know Lindsay and Jessica would probably be able to help you. There are other resources. You might have a board person who is good in this arena. There's companies like mine and others that can help you with it. And start to budget time and budget money. And the time has to come first. Most of you are strapped for money, so there may not ever be any money. So that's a realistic situational problem you might have. But if you start now and plan, I bet you could start to plan to pull out a little bit of money to do some things. The other thing is, I bet you're spending more money than you realize. It's just like your family budget. The money's drifting away in a lot of different ways, and it happens with a nonprofit as well. But organically telling other people about what you're doing one-on-one and then doing it in a larger setting also will help. So you have to practice that messaging where you are and then build it, and like muscling, you have to build it and improve it and enhance it and get advice and find ways to expand what you're talking about, right? So the first thing we were talking about balancing urgency and making sure that there isn't a tone of desperation, right? I wanted to mix between some practical advice in terms of ideas for your nonprofit, and then ways to share the message, ways to actually tell your story. So the first section is related to ideas to help you in the way that you position your nonprofit. And then as we work through those 3 or 4 slides, then we're going to talk about how to actually do it. Okay. Lindsay, I'm just going to check in. Is there anything that's bubbled up that we need to address, or can I power through?
People are appreciating your ideas in the chat.
Okay.
And Jenny from Literacy Volunteers has a great idea of giving folks a be an advocate for literacy kit to all their volunteers to let make sure people are equipped to have all the information they need about literacy interview, which I think is such a great idea.
That I think that is a great way to take a suggestion and customize it and personalize it. Um, Over my shoulder, there's a book. It's called The Advantage, and it's a book for CEOs and leaders. And one of the things they talk about is cascading communication. And the other thing he talks a lot about is most leaders will address something and then they'll say to themselves and to others around them, I've already talked about that. The reality is, just like marketing, and you can start to see how the pieces fit together, you have to repeatedly share the priorities as a leader in order for the people around you to receive them. And I find that that's a struggle for me because I think, well, I've already shared that. We've already talked about that. And yet people need to hear it over and over and over again, because about the time you're sick and tired of saying it is about the time people realize that you're saying something. And it's the same with advertising. Our clients, I mean, we work with, you might not know 5 Points Creative, and that's fine, but you would know our clients because they're pretty omnipresent, I guess. If I can say pretty omnipresent, I have to Google that. I don't think you can put those two words together. But anyway, they're around a lot, and they want to change their commercial. And sometimes I will say to them, look, about the time you want to change your commercial is about the time that people realize you're running a commercial. So it's the same as leaders, as CEOs. You have to stay diligent in sharing that messaging. And then the other thing they talk a lot about is cascading communication. It's one thing for you to share that message, but if you can get 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 people sharing your message, obviously, without really doing the math, it goes so much further and so much more is accomplished. So one of the questions that bubbled up is, how do we showcase the narrative of our foundation when so much is being spent on other time is being spent on other things? And I want to talk to you about a term we use. I want to talk to you about a term we use a lot in our arena. You're going to talk next month about social media. We use it a lot in social media, but it also works across the board. And that is the idea of buckets. So if you know that you have to do 10 social media posts a month, or you have to do one press release a month, or you have to do 2 blogs a month, or whatever the number is, whatever there's the word cadence is of that messaging, then one of the things you can do is break it into buckets so that, for example, let me just use an example I can speak off the top of my head about, and that is with the Spot on Kirk, the music venue. You'll notice if you follow us, and a lot of you probably don't, but if you were to dig in and look at it, you'd see there are posts about performers that are coming up. There are posts about sponsors that are coming up. There are posts to bring in volunteers. There are posts to uplift the community and the music scene. And then if you know that's what you're going to be targeting, then you can start to fill those buckets. And instead of thinking about 10 different posts, you can think about, hey, I need 2 posts on 5 subject matters. And that does make it a little bit easier. And it also forces you into a cadence where you're thinking, all right, if we're going to do 10 posts, what percentage of those posts do I want to be about our foundation? And what percentage of those posts do I want to be about our sponsors? Okay. If you're sending emails out, which is one of the things that we do, most of our emails are about upcoming shows. Some of our emails are thanking our sponsors. Some of our emails are acknowledging our board, or talking about an upcoming event. Uh, so one of the things that I say, my company is not that big. It depends on how you look at it, I guess. We have about a dozen full-time employees and a half a dozen part-time, and a few other people that are kind of dedicated contractors. And we do a press release every single month, and we have for 16 years. We did miss 1 month last year where we couldn't come up with anything that seemed like it was relevant. So I kind of went by the letter of law, like, we've got to do a press release. And I broke down and I thought, we don't really have anything, so let's just not do it. But as a general rule, We're not that big and we come up with things to say, so you can as well. But get into a pattern and make sure that you're doing email once a month, once a quarter, once every other month, every other week, once a week. We have a client that's a retailer that does 2 to 3 a week, and they're very short, and it's been very effective for them. And it's going to the people that like them, and it's very short. It's usually an attractive graphic and a subject line with information, right? Um, what I've tried to do with them is say, look, you need to mix other stuff in there periodically, put some personality profiles about some of the employees, put some design tips, do other stuff. But for over a decade, they've been doing it the same way, and they like to do it that way. So get a cadence, and you're going to see how this builds upon itself. But having a cadence, in my opinion, removes some of the desperation. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But there's a saying in our world, content is king, meaning all advertisers, all companies are looking for content they can share. It's why Dutchy has, a publication and all that content that they have. But again, consistency is so important. And if you're going to do it daily, do it daily. If it's weekly, do it weekly. But get into a routine, get into a rhythm. And in doing that, it in many ways makes it easier for you because you can delegate that to other people as well. And you can start to fill those buckets up. All right. The second thing about getting ahead of the wave is the fact that, as I was just kind of sharing, that regular messaging allows you to create an awareness through almost a drumbeat. You can routinely share things and you can vary the things that you share, but it gets attention to you and it interrupts people in different ways because they start to get used to hearing from you. And if you keep it relatable to them and focused on them and short, then people will respond over time. They will. And you can use those responses to grow your email list. So if people show an interest, if you have an event and you can gather emails, if you are out in the community and somebody says, I'd like to do this, make sure it's easy for them to sign up. Have QR codes that people can just sign up. Put the sign up for your communication at the top of your website. Don't say, well, we posted to sign up for our email newsletter on social media last week. I don't want to do it again. Social media is going to only show your message to about 10% of your audience. So if you have 300 people, they're going to show it to 30 people. If you have 3,000 people, they're going to show it to 300. Well, you can get away with resharing or taking the same thing and sharing it 6 different ways because it's going to go to different people oftentimes. So don't be alarmed by that or discouraged by that. Grow your email list intentionally. And then one of the things that people can do is they can advocate for you just by saying, hey, there's really good information on that Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. You should sign up for their emails. And then the other part is you can, as I said earlier, remove some of that desperation by having a routine. In your routine, make sure you're telling stories. We did for a couple of years, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago, actually, the social media management for Black Dog Salvage. And they at the time were at the height of their salvage dogs popularity. And it was really interesting because one of the owners really wanted to sell product on their social media. And we were consistently wrestling with them saying, okay, we can sell product on these emails, but we need to, every time we try to sell product, we need to 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 times share value, share tips, share ideas, share concepts that will be important and valuable to the recipients. Then you can slip in with that, with that more of direct ask or that call to action. Same with your nonprofit. If you're building value and you're doing it routinely and regularly, you can at times reach out and say, hey, we've got this event, buy some tickets, or we've got this special one-time grant, try to match it with us. And people will respond because you've built kind of a cache of credibility And as I said, you're when you're doing that, you're preparing the ground so that when you make the ask, people are ready to hear what you have to say. So I think that's an important step. Keep in mind that I meet with the news directors periodically, and they have fewer reporters than they've ever had. You've seen yourself; they have fewer uh, seasoned reporters than they've ever had. So one of the things that you can do to help get your story out is make it easy for them. Make sure that you are packaging things up in a way that will make sense for a print publication, or will make sense for an online news outlet, or will make sense for television, or even radio. If you're going to do television and you're going to talk to somebody, put some video out there and give them some what's called B-roll, which is just footage of something that they can use in their story. Give some photography as well, and don't just send the printed release. Uh, they are hungry for packaged news, and they have more hours to fill in their day with local news. Syndicated programming at a lot of the TV stations is down, and local programming is up. Oftentimes, they will make room for you to make a live appearance. And if you're able to give good information to their viewers, they will generally invite you back. Um, and then the other thing is pay attention to what the story is. In the NRV, you have even fewer, dedicated reporters, but look at what they're writing about. Look at what they are. Sorry, we're near the fire station here in the heart of Old Southwest in downtown Roanoke. So if the sirens are a distraction, I apologize. It's a way to wake you up and get some attention, most of the way through this. Then again, look for other tie-ins that may make sense, but match the story you have with the reporter that likes to do arts and culture, or the reporter that likes to be out in nature. And the more you do that, the better you're going to be. The better you're going to be situated to build an ongoing relationship with that news outlet. And then you have to talk about and think about what you're going to say and how to say it best. I want to just share with you. I shared this at a Buzz for Good episode, one of his Buzz Live episodes a month or so ago, and I started to cut it down, and it was really a 60-second thing. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put the words on here and let you. I'm not going to read it word for word, but I just want to share the thought that if you are in the nonprofit sector, there's a really good chance you're a really good person. And our parents told us not to interrupt. My mom and dad hated when we interrupted, and I was an excited kid. Still, I'm excited. My fourth grade teacher said I was rambunctious. Jessica, I don't know if you can imagine that, but I think that it's hard for me to not interrupt. But for most of you, you're really good. You're kind people, and interrupting is hard for you to do. For 16 years, my company has made a living by interrupting. Now, you don't always interrupt with a big announcement, or gosh, I can't think, the horn that, the air horn or the megaphone. Sometimes it might be an interrupting story, or it could be humor. It could be using somebody. I know a lot of people in the NRV use Bud Foster. Whatever it is that gets people's attention, you have to interrupt them. And I want you to think about the next time you're kind of going through your mundane, here's what we talk about things, and trying to be nice and polite. You can still be nice and polite. I want you to be nice and polite. And by the way, can we all agree that there's, a 0.5 in 10 people that work in your world that aren't always really nice? So that there's no set across the board 100% guarantee. But again, most of you all that are in the nonprofit sector are doing good work, and you're good people. You have to break that pattern of being afraid to interrupt, and you use whatever you can to get people's attention. The thing is, getting their attention only lasts for about that long. You have to be able to follow that up with at least a tidbit or an ounce of information that's going to impact the audience that you're speaking with, and help them understand how you're making the community better, how you're making their world better. I can think of a lot of examples, and we can talk more about that, but condensing it. One person asked, how do I get my message across in 30 seconds? Well, you might need to find a way to get it across in 5 seconds, but then be ready with your 30-second story. And then be ready with your 2-minute story. And then if you're in a conversation, you can go into the long form of sharing it over 20, 30 minutes or an hour or two. Uh, but it starts again with that concept of interrupting. Then I want you to integrate storytelling. Find a way to meet the recipient where they are. They are going to be in a better place to catch your passion. If instead of saying, I'm so excited about blah, 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 you say, so here's one of the things that happened recently that I thought you might be interested in. And you tell them what happened. It builds a little bit of connection with people. It does, as they say, soften the ground. Some of the people on this call are related to farming and gardening and all that. And think about it. It's the same. People are the same. A little trickier sometimes, although I think there are probably some finicky plants too. So let's just say it's a very good word picture that if you just drop the seed and expect things to grow, it doesn't work like that, obviously. So be mindful of that as you approach donors and sponsors and underwriters and municipalities and the media and whoever it is that you're trying to share your message with. But again, storytelling will slow people down. And the other thing that it'll do is it'll shift the tone of your development process as well. You're used to asking, and that makes sense. But I don't want you to just run out and start asking. You have to explain the value. You have to build up the story. You have to remember the foundational things we talked about at the beginning of the talk 30 some minutes ago. The next thing is about making sure you're consistent. And then it's making sure what you're sharing is done in a way that is relevant for the recipient and is meaningful for them. And as you do that, I think you'll start to see your donations go up and you'll see the interest happen and you'll see people being more willing to align with you. So, you know, the saying, desperate times require desperate measures, right? Everybody knows that. The desperate measure in this case is to actually make a mental break from the, we need money, I got to go raise money, to we need stories, and make the break to telling a story that will capture people's imagination. So you interrupt, get their attention, tell a story, capture their imagination, and then you're in a better place to, at that point, make the asks that you want to ask. I would also encourage you, we talked about buckets for social media, and perhaps you guys will address that next month as well. But one size does not fit all in any situation, and one size does not fit all in nonprofit development and in your marketing and in your communication. You need to start to figure out what people need to receive and then have a couple of different stories. That is not inauthentic to have 4 or 5 stories. That's actually being thoughtful, because if you think you can share the same story with every single person, it's not going to work. I have to share very quickly a story about the Spot on Kirk here. If I started talking about hip hop artists to some of you, or spoken word shows that we've done, you might not. You may not like music, so I can talk about comedy and some of the improv shows that we have, or the comedians that have come in. You might love bluegrass or Americana, and I can talk about that. That's a very different example than what you all do, but you start to get the idea, right? Shift your story to match the audience and not just what you feel like talking about. And tighten those stories and get comfortable sharing them. Work on them as a team. Practice a little bit of storytelling internally, and then turn and get used to sharing it out to the public in general. And I think the other part is, if you're telling stories, it shifts things so that you're not in a place where you're desperate because you're telling a story. Now you've gotten their attention because you've interrupted them. You're telling a story, and now they're interested. And now it's just natural that you explain how they could get involved and how they could help. So having the variety of talk tracks, almost like the buckets in a different way, it's really scary if you have to have 10 of these things and you have to come up with all this stuff. But if you go back to that very first slide of starting where you are, build one out, get good at that, build another one out, get good at that. And then you start to see how it works and how the pieces fit together. So this is a great time to say, that desperate times require desperate measures, and slowing down is not what you want to do. Slowing down is not what feels natural, but slowing down is exactly what you need to do. Even think about this talk. There have been times where I've been speaking really quickly and sharing a lot of information and bouncing from thing to thing. But I also think it's really important to give people a chance to absorb what you're saying, to give people a chance to respond to what you're saying. And when you slow down, when you change your cadence, when you, I don't mean the cadence of putting messaging out, but the cadence of even how you speak, it allows or permits or encourages the audience to also slow down. And when people slow down in this busy world, there's a lot of anxiety right there, right now. Um, you have a tendency to start to feel a little bit better. Now it can still get overwhelming and those things pop up. And so I'm not going to say everything's better because you slow down, but I think that when you think about some of the angst that you're feeling in the nonprofit world, think about the nonprofits that have grown and or been invented or created during times of hardship. And think about, if you think about the companies, I hadn't necessarily prepared to share this, but there have been some articles written. I remember back in 2009, I'd read a lot of articles about companies that were started during times of economic challenge, whether it was the Great Depression, I think it was Kellogg's, maybe General Mills that were started then, during the gas crisis of the early 70s, I think it was Toyota. I think in the early 80s when there were a lot of challenges happening, I want to say, there were a couple other companies that were started then. I think Amazon was started during a slowdown. I think maybe in the uh, '01. I need to find the article, but the point of it is I can even relate, even though I've talked to you about the spot, but even though my company is a for-profit company, what I'm reading from the experts in the marketing arena as it relates to people that coach and counsel advertising agencies are this is a time when people want us to lean in and to not shrivel and get small. Our company was founded in the Great Recession, doubled in size during the pandemic. So I said to my team a couple times this week, now during some of the unrest that we have, why would we be afraid? This is the time for us to lean in because people need our help more than ever. And so instead of being afraid, let's look at our history and look at how we started and look at how we grew. And many of you are in the same place. You've been through harder times than this. You're tough. You can get this done. Make sure you're looking out for yourself so that you can look out for the people around you and the people you serve. And trust me, people want to hear your story. They just need to have the ability to have the space to receive what you want to tell them. So slowing down will help you do that. So that kind of brings together the different pieces that I think will be the most important. So foundationally, again, making sure that you know what you're about and have a plan. And a plan does not mean that it's not like it came from the mountain and you can't ever change it. It's a place to start and a place to grow and improve. And then get into a cadence, get into a rhythm, start where you are, do what you can. And then once you're into a rhythm, perfect that. And don't quit and don't give up. Like that book, The Advantage says, stick with it because about the time you want to quit is about the time people are saying, hey, there's something happening and I want to learn more about it. And then make sure that your messaging is intelligent with how you're sharing it and what you're sharing. Lindsay, I think that's what I have.
Thank you so much, Bruce. That was great. So there's some people have been adding some things in the chat. I appreciated what Dutchy from Cardinal News said was that when you're talking about news agencies, that folks are hungry for good, positive news, which absolutely, I feel like when you open a news website. I feel like there's so much doom and gloom, and because there's important, challenging things happening, but having a positive news story to tell is I think a lot of reporters are looking for that. What would you say about that, Bruce?
I mean, I think it goes back to, especially in the NRV, I would look at who the people are that are reporting on your area and start to put, I don't want to say you got to put them into buckets, but start to, this person really loves to seem to do outdoor stories. This person is willing to come in person and do a story in Pulaski. This person really loves arts and culture, and start to create content in a way that it will resonate with the reporter that you're trying to talk to. And of course, people want good stories. I do think that, I mean, positive stories, and having those are really important. If you share positive stories, it is okay to share need stories as well. It's also okay to um, talk about how you're meeting needs. So I think you can't only share positive stories. If there are problems, you have to be willing to share it. And then I think if the story's big enough, you can get people to come from Richmond or Roanoke, and come and look at your story and talk about it, or from DC or wherever it might be. If the story's a good story, it's a good story. And so work hard on making sure that you're finding and crafting good stories.
Thanks,
Does that
Bruce.
help?
Yeah. So we have another question in the chat that says, "Can you please address how do you deal with the current economic crisis we're facing?" And I don't know if this is part of the question, Susan, but I know a lot of folks in the nonprofit space are facing they've already lost federal funding or they're concerned about losing it, and so that puts people even more on edge. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts there?
So first of all, catch that breath we talked about. That's the very first thing. And secondly, it's okay to look in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's okay too. But then the third thing is you stand up, look in that same mirror and say, I'm a smart person. We figured out things before. We will figure this out. There are, 20 some of you on this call. Talk to each other, pool your resources, talk to the people that are going to help you make a difference. I, so here's the thing. I didn't want to lead with negativity about these days, but we're, 45 minutes in. If somebody's still watching, it's okay. I'm gonna share it anyway. Um, Everybody wants people to be tough on crime until it's their cousin, niece, nephew, aunt, or uncle, and they say, well, except Harold here, they're really a great person. They should be treated differently. And, so everybody wants government cuts, everybody wants balanced budgets until they realize their program's being impacted. And I don't think people out in the world right now have fully realized what all is happening, because there's so much happening, they can't absorb what's happening. So that's a problem. That's an issue. It may take a little while for it to be settled, but I'm very loosely connected to the NPR radio group. And of course, they've been in the news a ton, as has PBS. And they had their biggest fund drive they'd ever had. They had a lot of people that gave because there was a need and they saw there was a gap and there was a fear. Now, I am not saying that you play up the fear. I don't know that that's a good long-term solution, but I do think you can share your story. And um, typically, not always, but typically, there are people willing to stand in the gap and fill the gap. So it also may mean you have to realign some things you were going to do. Um, I realize my company is a for-profit, at least theoretically for-profit company, and you all are nonprofit. But when 2020 happened, the first day when they shut things down, which was coincidentally the day that we rebranded our company and opened our office, was the day Governor Northam shut everything down. And I sat at this very desk, and back then I was using a legal pad, and I wrote down, okay, I think it was a third of our clients paused or canceled everything they were doing. I was like, oh man, this is going to get interesting. And I started thinking, well, if I cut this and I cut that and I do this, then we can go 6 weeks. And So I'm a weekend thinking, what can I do to protect my people from losing their job? So I had to adjust, and we did a couple fast turn websites. We did a couple of these things or those things because we needed to make payroll. But then one of the things that was really interesting, an interesting thing happened. About a week in, people started coming back. Some people said, okay, we realized we don't have a website and we need a website. Hey, people are buying things online and we don't have any sort of a digital marketing plan. You know, we've been trying to target this geographical area, but now we've got to go over here and they needed our help. And new people came in, some people came back, and everything kind of calmed down a little bit, right? And as I said, I mean, in 21 or in 2020 to 2022, we doubled in size, but that wasn't just magic. We had to make some changes. We had to do things differently. And your nonprofit may have to make some changes and some adjustments. There's no doubt. But I also think there are people that want to stand in the gap for you, and they just need to know there's a need. And the best way to share that is through stories and through interrupting them. So I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not diminishing the challenges that you're facing at all. But you are strong people, or else you wouldn't be in the work that you do. You are strong people, or else you would not be doing what you do. And again, 95% of you are really good. So I wonder who the one isn't on this call. Is we can take votes. I don't know, Jessica, but I will say this: you have to interrupt. You have to find a way to get people's attention, and then you have to condense your story into bite-sized amounts. One person asked us, Lindsay, what type of information should be provided in a fundraising letter? And
Mm.
you know, I want to start with a really basic question: do you need a fundraising letter? And it may be that that's what you've done for 20, 30 years, but it may be this is the year you don't need a fundraising letter. Maybe you need to do something different. If you're going to do a fundraising letter, make sure that there's some call outs that get people's attention and not just paragraphs that are all the same. And make sure there's something that gets somebody's attention to get them to read. You know, the headline helps, an image, an infographic, find a different way to tell the same story. I think video is a really powerful way to do that. And I'm releasing a book. This is not a commercial, okay? But I'm releasing a book later this year. And I'm working with a marketing company because I'm great at marketing everybody else, but not our own place. And she is telling me I have to do 2 LinkedIn videos a week. I think it's 2 a week. And I'm thinking to myself, I cannot think of something I want to do less than 2 LinkedIn videos. But if this is the formula, if this is what I need to do, obviously we're not going to have the camera, won't have good lighting. I need one of those, lights. But you're going to be in a place where you might have to do some things differently. And phone videos can be one of those things you do. And look at what some of the kids are doing and do what they do. And find other ways to tell that story. Make it short. If you're doing a letter, man, if it's front and back, I would find an editor. Let's just say that. I don't know. Did I get in trouble with that one, Lindsay?
No, I think I appreciate the point of this is the time to be looking at everything you're doing. And just because you've always done it doesn't mean you should continue to do it, especially if you're thinking about, I mean, sending a fundraising letter that could be $1,000, and that could be a very important $1,000 that you could put somewhere else. So I think just having that mindset of sort of everything's on the table of what could we do differently, what could we not do, how could we save money. I think it's really important. And one big takeaway that I'm getting from this talk is just thinking about, don't assume that people remember what you do and how you're doing it and why you're doing it, and just remember how busy everyone is, how many emails you might get a day, how many distractions you have. And so it's kind of, you can kind of feel like a broken record sometimes when you're talking about your work, but that means you're doing it right.
Well,
Uh,
100% agree with that, Lindsay. And I started with that target slide, which I think I've shared with this group and probably other times with other groups. And I think, Bruce, you've told people this 100 times, but you need to hear it 103 times. And it's okay. And it's all right to repeat yourself. And even with the spot on Kirk, which I keep going back to, none of you are in trouble because you all live in the NRV and it's a long way to go there. But I run into people. I see Seth's here, and he and I cross paths in the arts community in Roanoke. We do a lot of work with Mill Mountain Theater, and I still run into people that say, "Oh yeah, the Spot on Kirk, friends of mine. I haven't been there yet." I'm like, just stop saying yet and just say I've never been there, because in 9 years, that's 1,000 shows. You could have come to one. You know what I mean? And Mill Mountain Theater is doing, 6, 7 shows a year. They've been around now, reopened, I think, for a dozen years. There's a lot of chances. There's a lot of chances to go. So as much as we're sharing that in this place, right, what you said, Lindsay, as much as we are drumbeat saying what we say about the community foundation of the NRV over and over and over again, and we think people are tired of it, a couple of things are happening. People are moving in and out of the community, and people are ready to listen at different times. I'll use an example from almost 40 years ago. Back in the olden days, they had newspapers. And in the newspapers, remember this, Dutchie? In the newspapers, you'd open it up and there'd be 4 sections. Now there's 2. And in the olden days, with the newspaper, there was a sports section. If you open the sports section and you read past all the little fine print they called agate type, the next page over or on the other side was a full page ad or a half page ad for tires. And the tire ad listed every single size tire and a price. And they did it every day. And I don't know why they did it every day, but tire companies put ads in the newspaper every single day with fine print of the tire size and the price. And you know what? 300 out of days in a row, if you're a reader of the paper, you skipped over that. But if you had a flat tire the day before and you looked at that ad, then you would care about the tire ad and if they had your size and how much it cost, because all of a sudden you need a tire. And they've been running that same ad and you've ignored it for weeks and months, and all of a sudden you need it. Look, y'all, your messaging is exactly the same as that antiquated way of advertising tires. You have to stay steady with your messaging and not be discouraged. Don't lose heart yet. Don't lose heart. Stick with it, because it will impact different people at different times in the same way.
Absolutely. And I'll just echo what Bruce said earlier of we have such a great community of nonprofits in our region, and such a great um, community that wants to collaborate. So lean on your fellow nonprofit folks. Don't be afraid to call someone to commiserate or to ask questions or to brainstorm. And this is the time when we all can continue to help each other and continue to collaborate. So don't be strangers to one another.
Can you guys do one thing for me? Can everybody smile? Actually, you don't have to, but could you, if you're able to, could you put your camera on? I want to take a picture, because Tara wants me to post on LinkedIn, and I love doing these talks, but I also am not really good at promoting myself. So I'm gonna try to take a little picture and put it on my social media. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can find me and follow me. And our company sends a monthly newsletter out that I think Jessica can vouch for. That's just giving information. Honestly, it's just giving information. We've done it once a month for 16 years, coming up on 200 of them, and I'd be happy to share that with you. So if you guys are cool, if you don't want to be in the picture, you don't have to put your picture up, or you can dip out. But thank you. This is awesome. Thanks, everybody. All right, smile. Thank you. Is that okay, Lindsay, that I did that?
Yeah, for sure. And it
Already
just sounds
done.
like you're about to become an influencer on LinkedIn, Bruce. So we're all excited that we can say we knew you when.
That's right.
Uh, Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. And thank you so much to Bruce, and congrats on another book. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank
Um,
you.
all right, everyone, have a great rest of the day, and don't be strangers. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.